All right, starting in 3, 2, 1. And here we are. Welcome to the 35th ESOU podcast. And joining me, as always, is Olivo. And today we have a special guest, and his name is Hack the Minotaur. Minotaur. Sometimes I don't know how to pronounce that word for some reason.
Hack is fine. Hack is good.
Yeah. But yeah, so as always, we just kind of start off with introductions. And if you want to kind of tell us anything about yourself, I don't know anyone who doesn't know you actually. So I think this is going to be interesting. How you would introduce yourself to the people listening in.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everybody. My name is Hack. Like starting a video. Yeah, and I guess I'm an ESO content creator. That's probably what I would call myself. Been doing videos mostly on YouTube for I think 5 years now. I think coming up on 5 years. 2018 is when I started. So mostly focused on ESO. I've covered a few other games in the past, and yeah, just love the game, love playing, love theory crafting builds and creating content and guides for people. So a lot of fun for me.
You have such a great voice.
I feel like
it's
I'm the odd one out here. I need to get more nice and buttery smooth. Hello.
Yeah, it's a big part of the reason why I got hooked on to watching your videos. I was like, man, this guy's getting fucking great
thank
voice.
you.
I think that definitely does help. If you're making videos, you don't have an annoying voice, do you?
Depends on what you.
Part of the appeal.
I think it depends on the person. Like I've YouTube comments. Some people like my voice. Some are incredibly annoyed with it.
What? How?
How is it? Like too calm or like?
I don't know. Everybody has their preference, right?
Oh god, I think we can go on forever about YouTube comments.
Yeah,
that's the whole podcast right there.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, you mentioned so since 2018 you've been making ESO content, and I think a lot of people know you for your plethora of builds. You have builds for every class. You have builds for soloing things. You have builds for classes. You have group builds. Whether that's a healing build or a tank build. You also have builds for beginners. You also have 1-bar builds, heavy attack builds, PvP builds, grinding builds even. That's a lot of builds. How do you keep up? How do you keep up with all that?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard because with ESO especially, the game changes so much.
Oh yeah.
So I have a website, and if things have majorly changed, then I'll try to update the written guides on the website. But some of the build videos, I just haven't updated the actual video because, like you said, there's so many.
Right. And for those of you listening, it's hacktheminotaur.com is the website. So do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing ultimately? At least for content creation, things changing so often every quarter or even every 2 quarters for ESO.
Well, I think it's good for content creation because it gives us something to talk about every 2 to 3 months. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good for the players.
Yeah, but it means you can revisit things that maybe you've learned more things about a certain class or build. If the meta's changing every 6 months and you get an excuse to redo a video, that's good, right? Have that content there. I think like you say, it's difficult on the players. Do you think that is that something that the players put towards you in the feedback for your videos? Do they feel exhausted? Do they seem exhausted?
Yeah, I would say there's a good amount of players that, especially the last couple years, because the combat changes have been really, I don't even know how you would describe it. Just crazy changes constantly.
Pendulum swings.
Yeah, and so it's exhausting. It's exhausting when you put, all your time to create a build and then, it's not as good anymore the next patch. It sucks. So there's definitely some exhaustion there, I think, from players, and I think you've seen that too in like the numbers of people playing over the past year or so.
Oh yeah. Well, how about yourself? Like, do you feel exhausted, or is it just kind of like, well, it is what it is, and you just keep going, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say exhausted. I think maybe frustrated.
Yeah, it's a good word for it.
I think like communication's probably a big issue with the game, from developers to players. So I'm more frustrated than anything. Like I'll keep creating content and guides, no matter what, because I enjoy the game and
right.
I like contributing to the community. But yeah, there's been some frustrating times for sure.
Yeah, I think that in itself can be an entire podcast.
Yeah.
Go on.
I mean, I think coming on to this like exhaustion with people having to change their builds and stuff, I think that might partly have led to the success of all these like one bar builds, is that they're quite easy to sort of pick up and like learn something very quickly. It doesn't matter whether the meta changes, you've still you've only got like 5 different skills to learn. If you found that since I guess OpenSoul that one bar builds are like your top thing, or what's like the most popular?
Yeah, well, that's interesting because I would say that one bar builds were popular before OpenSoul. It's just they weren't as viable.
Okay.
When I started creating one bar build videos, that's probably like a year before OpenSoul, and they were really popular just out of the gate. I think a lot of people probably coming from Skyrim, maybe in other games, just aren't into like the bar swapping thing as much. Yeah, that's one of the main complaints, like bar swapping, light attack weaving. There's a big, I think, percentage of the player base that's just not into it. And so they really like the one bar play style a lot.
Yeah.
I remember talking to someone and they said their wife, even though like she got past level 15 and all that and she's playing the game, she just doesn't choose to bar swap. And that at the time blew my mind away, but as time went on, I'm like, okay, I can see why that is with a lot of people, especially coming from Skyrim or even other games.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of the game as well. Like if you're just doing overland content or normal dungeons and you're happy with that, then why would you complicate things and try and push yourself when something it's just a game. You might not be spending 60, 80 hours a week like we might be.
Yeah. I think I feel like on consoles it's more popular too, just because it kind of plays better with a controller. I play with a controller myself most times.
Yeah.
So it just feels good to like kick back with a controller and you have your 5 skills and your ultimate and that's it. That's all you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Kind of simplifies things.
Have you tried mouse and keyboard?
Yeah, I did. Because I started playing on Xbox when I picked up the game. But probably about 2 years ago, I switched over to PC. Not really for like add-ons or anything, just for as a content creator, it's easier.
Right.
To play on PC. But I still, would use my controller because actually ESO has a really good, controller scheme set up.
Yeah.
Like it's actually pretty good. Like the whole UI changes and everything. So it's actually pretty good. But yeah, I've done controller. Like if I do a DPS parse or something, like I find controller is not as efficient. Like especially with light attack weaving and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Controllers are much more difficult to get like a pure light attack out of a controller trigger versus like a mouse click. Yeah. So yeah, I do play with both, but probably like 80% on controller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
can see
mean,
that.
if I tried controller this morning because I'm having like I went
Wrist
to the
issues?
doctor's I went to the doctor's this week, and
Hmm.
they told me that my hand is like broken pretty much.
What? How do you break your hand?
Well, no, they said it's got like I've got osteoarthritis apparently,
Ooh.
allegedly, carpal tunnel,
Oh.
all these kinds of things. So they're like try and chill out a little bit. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll do my Ritz with a controller. How hard can it be? I took 20 minutes to try and find out how to mount. Like I couldn't figure out how to log out either. That was another thing. The map, I have no idea where the map is.
Okay, so you're telling me I need to make a guide for this?
I potentially, yeah.
This is my next video.
I would watch
Yeah.
it.
And also, I mean, I had a PlayStation 4. I still have it somewhere. But then all the buttons are wrong. Like it was saying X is square, and because it comes up with the Xbox things. But
Yeah.
thankfully, there is an add-on on Menu. So if anyone else is plugging a PlayStation controller in, there is an add-on that redoes all the UI, so it's a PlayStation UI.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, nice.
It is also a little bit wrong though, because it said mount was like push down this middle button here, but that is not true. I don't know what it was, but I had to rebind it anyway.
Yeah, you could remap it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I don't know what my point is, but yeah, then controllers are hard and weird, and I feel like if I picked up ESO on console and I had to play with a controller, I think I'd give up after like half an hour. I don't know how anyone persists with playing with a controller.
It's hard when you switch from mouse to controller, or even controller to
vice versa.
keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It took me a while, back and forth.
Yeah, because it's all that muscle memory that you have built up, and then you have to like break it.
I will say though, controllers are much more comfortable for your hands. I think I know a lot of people with carpal tunnel or arthritis that either have to or really want to play with controllers for a lot of games, because the pain is much lessened compared to I guess claw gripping your mouse.
Claw gripping.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people.
Yeah, especially if you're doing like DPS or something where it's APM or nothing. Yeah, I mean, I had carpal tunnel at one point, not with ESO, but in previous MMOs, where I would play mouse and controller only, for like 8 hours a day. That's rough on your body.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, especially if
you gotta be careful.
A day job working in IT as well, so you're.
Yeah, for sure. If that's what you do for work too, you need to be careful. Yeah. Get with a controller. It'll help.
I think I did my Ritz with a controller, and then so I've been currently grinding a bit of AP. I got my 4th Grand Overlord yesterday, which is mad.
What the hell?
I know.
What?
I'm trying to get one of every class, right?
Why?
Well, I mean, I've got all the achievement points, got all the champion points. There's no, since it's account-wide achievements now, I can't. Each character has no personality other than, they've got nothing unique about them other than their alliance rank now. So that's all I've got left to grind, Nefus. Leave me alone.
That's all he has left.
Okay, come on. What would their fashion, their aesthetics? I don't know. Have you tried roleplaying?
Yeah, but I guess I could like build them each a house or something. But even then, I've got nothing left to grind other than Grand Overlord on all of them. But yeah, I tried Cyrodiil with a controller. That is awful. I mean, I can't do combat, especially not panicking. I guess you do need to learn. You need all that muscle memory, and that's really important.
Yeah.
But then, I'm sure Nefus is the same. We've raided with people in like high-end hard mode content, and they're like DDs that use controllers, and they are just as good, if not better, than people with mouse and keyboard. Like I know Lulu, for example, who we had on the podcast before, top DPS player, uses a controller, which is just insane.
I think that's
I think it can be done.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
think that's
tricky.
more of a player thing, though. You know what I mean, rather than the instrument. I feel like you could,
Right.
if you're a good player, you can do either. Like eventually, like muscle
Eventually,
memory.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you just need some more time.
Sure. But do you not reckon there's like a skill ceiling on using a controller versus keyboard and mouse?
I think there's some limitations with key bindings, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, especially, I mean, you definitely do need a keyboard. You want to swap gear with add-ons and stuff like that. So, and
Especially
I think,
with lag too, and like PvP, especially with Cyrodiil. I could imagine like on to do an ultimate, right? Typically, it's like left bumper, right bumper combined.
Yes.
Like sometimes that just won't even happen in PvP.
So I was using a Dark Convergence Vicious Death Necro with Harmony, and the pop-up kept coming up for Synergy. And I was like, what the hell are those buttons? How am I meant to press both of those at the same time?
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, Synergy.
So
That's a tough one.
I feel like it's definitely very tough compared to just pressing one button. But, like you say, maybe with enough experience.
so we kind of started off like in the present, but I kind of want to get to know you more in terms of like, how did you like start?
Ooh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I know you're like, oh, I started YouTubing in 2018, but like, what led you to that decision of making videos, and like, how did you jump from you mentioned playing other MMOs and I think RPGs to ESO?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I've always been a fan of MMOs. I think I started playing EverQuest back when that was a thing. Did either of you guys play that game?
Wow.
Yeah,
EverQuest 1 or 2?
Both.
1.
Okay, wow. You might be older than me.
I'm dating myself. Yes. So I played EverQuest in like towards end of high school, early college. So yeah, and that was a sweaty game, right? That's when I had carpal tunnel actually. I played a was it a bard? Yeah, I mean certain classes, that's an interesting game. Like certain classes have much higher APM requirements than others, so you would just like kill your fingers, depending on your class. But that's kind of where I started with MMOs. That was a really, I don't know, just kind of, I guess you could say I got addicted to it, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing of like building your character and then, the community side of it, raiding, all that stuff. So I did play that probably 2 or 3 years, maybe. And then I got busy with, college and family. So I really sort of put that away for a while. And then I was just like a console gamer for a bit, playing like Skyrim and things like that on my Xbox. And then eventually I think I just started seeing like videos for Elder Scrolls Online, probably like YouTube videos. And I used to watch Fang Rush PvP.
Yeah.
I used to watch Deltia and his videos. So that kind of got me interested, and then I picked it up and played for a while, and it was like not that fun, to be honest. Just playing ESO back in 2015, it was not that great. Like that's a whole nother discussion, right? The game has come a long way.
Yeah, it does.
Since then. But yeah, I just wasn't vibing that much with the game for a little bit, but I just kept playing it every once in a while, and I think eventually I hit max level where I hit vet ranks. And then I started getting more into theory crafting, and so I would just watch like YouTube videos. I think I was watching more YouTube videos than actually playing the game, because at the high level there's so much theory crafting that you could learn. So I remember specifically Gilliam the Rogue, watching, Gil's videos back in the day. I would rewatch them, and I would wait for him to post his next video, because he would do like every class skill as a separate video. Well, not class skill, but like class skill line.
Oh, yeah, I
So
remember
he was
this.
like, yeah, did you guys watch those?
Yeah, I watched all of them. There was a 3-hour long one about Nightblade's, was it Assassination or Shadows?
Yeah, yeah.
It was a 3-hour video.
It was,
I was like,
in depth.
bro, come on, bro.
But I was into it. Like, I enjoyed it. And I said, I rewatched some of them. Just to, I don't know why, man. I'm weird.
No, I think that's fine. I think listening to people breaking down stuff to the point where you can understand it is like, I don't know. It's like watching a performance or like an art. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah.
But so it's almost like going to school, I think.
Yeah.
To like get a base level of knowledge in how the game worked. And then at that point, I just started trying everything myself, like setting up different builds, different, PvP builds, PvE builds, solo builds, whatever. And then I would just, theorycraft. I would pull up sets, look at all the list of sets and sit there and look at them and think, okay, these 2 sets and these skills on this class, that would be pretty cool. I want to try that. So then I would build that out and try it. So yeah, once I reached sort of the end game area of ESO, it got a lot more interesting because I would try these different builds and things for myself, and I wasn't bored anymore. Like I was playing like nonstop, setting up builds, and then playing the build for like a day or two, and okay, now I'm bored with this build. Let me create a different build. So then I got sort of addicted, not on the game as much, but just creating builds and different like play styles and experiences for myself. So that's kind of how I got into the gameplay side of things. Content creation, I think, just kind of came out of that somehow. I don't honestly remember, but I created a couple video guides, I think, at some point, and they got a few views. I think I created like a Nightblade guide first, and it got like 100 or 200 views on YouTube, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll do a few more, and then just kept doing it. Really,
just kind of snowballed from there. Did people ask you for builds, or did you just start posting builds?
Yeah, I don't think anybody asked me. I just did it. more for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody was like blown away. I was like, oh, dude, this is sick. Can you do X, Y, and Z? I probably got more like negative comments. You know how YouTube is.
Yeah, YouTube
like, this build sucks. What are you doing?
Yeah.
YouTube's rough.
So I mean, how do you find that? Because this is what I feel about theory crafting. It's like no matter how deep I theory craft, there's always going to be a meta that's not going to fit whatever I'm theory crafting for. So say like, I don't know, I'm like a Sorc main at the moment and I want to get into a raid team. No matter how good I play my Sorc, it's not going to be as good as like a DK, How do you manage that? Like what motivates you to theory craft when you know there's something out there that is potentially just going to be better?
Well, I don't think so. I don't necessarily think the same way because I don't really do a lot of like group, like end game group content where that would be my concern. And I think my audience kind of matches that, where they're not end game players necessarily. They're just playing for fun. And so my approach is, what's the most fun build that I can create, or the most unique build that I can create, or like with a specific theme. So I'm thinking more about that. I'm not thinking about damage numbers necessarily, or if a certain class can do this better. I'm not thinking of that at all, really.
Right. Is it for? I mean, what do you think what could people achieve with your builds? Like, are they able to do, vet dungeons, hard modes, trials?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them definitely. Some of them not. I've had some of my favorite comments are from like people who have accessibility issues. and they say like, oh, this game was so frustrating or whatever, but then I tried this one bar build and now I can play all of a sudden, like, you know. So it just depends. Like I said, I don't create like end game DPS builds necessarily, so a lot of it is like catered towards beginners and like solo players especially, which is interesting for an MMO, right? But there's actually a huge population of ESO players that's all they do. That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I didn't know that. Like when I got into creating builds, I was just creating what I was interested in. And then I found out that it like resonated with a ton of players. I was like, oh, really? Like people want to learn about a solo sorcerer build. Okay. Like I didn't research that. I didn't, I just meshed with what people were interested in at the time.
Yeah.
But that's what's good about ESO too, is there's like a whole spectrum of builds. Like, yeah, there's endgame DPS builds and there's sweaty PvP 40k health builds, and there's like beginner builds and solo builds, and like that's what's cool, is like you can create something for people in all kinds of different spaces for this game, which I like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does feel like over the years the play how you want has become more of like a level playing ground. Like the meta has sort of not been so far ahead of other builds as it was in the past.
Right. Or there's just more you can do too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You can have your one bar.
Like you can get a companion now and solo a dungeon with a companion healer. Or you can get a companion tank now if you want.
Yeah.
Or you can just do mythics, or you can do housing all day. Like,
have you found that the hybridization of Magicka and Stamina, has that opened up more builds, or is it narrowed things down? Has it made some stuff more sort of homogenized? Because I feel like it's before you had Magicka DDs and Stamina DDs, and now you kind of have just middle of the ground, or at least in the meta. How has that affected the builds that you make?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on the context again. So it depends on what you're trying to do, right? I think for the majority of players, it's really opened things up and made it easier to play and more fun. Like for me, I was just playing a Nightblade yesterday. I'm leveling up a new Nightblade, and it's like a stamina focused Nightblade, but I'm running Swallow Soul on it for healing, right? Which I wouldn't be able to do that on the stamina Nightblade before the hybrid changes necessarily, but now it's totally viable. And the reverse is true. You have a Magicka build, you can run like Stampede as a gap closer on your Magicka build. So I think for like PvP and anything below like end game rating, I think it's really opened things up a lot, and I think it's a good change. I think the problem is with like meta DPS builds, it's really shrunk down because players will do, what they do at end game, and that's like figure out the best combination of skills and the best combination of weapons. And nothing compares to dual wield daggers for, DPS. And nothing compares to like Pillar of Nirn and, a trial set, and Mythic Kilt, right? So, I mean, other things are close, but players have mathematically figured out like this is the best setup. And since it scales on both the Magicka and Stamina build, both types of builds will just use that.
Right.
And so I think we're seeing a lot like more like homogenized builds at end game. But maybe that's okay. I don't know. Like you have to think too about like how many players really does this affect? How many players are rating at the end game? Is it like 1,000 players that this is really an issue for? And did it open up more possibilities for like 50,000 players. I don't know. It's hard to.
Makes sense.
You can't solve all the issues, right?
And yeah, go on.
Please.
When I was thinking like how the meta shifts from like stamina to magicka and vice versa. I guess we're going to be seeing less of that now, which I think is honestly fine for endgame. Like I feel like that's probably a positive thing, even though there's going to be like less different builds we'll end up playing. They'll all be quite similar to each other, especially if we're using the same weapon skills on every single class as well. But maybe it makes endgame more accessible, if anything, if the meta's not going to change quite so drastically. And if people learn the dual wield and the two-hander, then maybe they can adapt that to any class when it becomes meta.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an issue more for like in the play style. Like, what if somebody doesn't like playing dual dagger, two-hand back bar?
Yeah.
And like you're saying, they feel punished for that play style. Like they can't play Inferno Staff build anymore at endgame, or their raid leader won't let them play, because it parses less. I think that's where you get into issues. But I'm not really sure how you would fix that.
I remember that one guy getting mad at Skinny Cheeks for making builds with dual dagger and greatsword. Do you remember that?
Yeah. On
YouTube comments. Yeah, it was YouTube comments. But kind of going back to audience or demographic, I think it would interest both of you to know that you guys know Browy got this, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He posted a poll yesterday asking people like how many hours of games, or just how many hours can you game a day?
Yeah.
And I think so far 61% of almost 3,000 people said, only 2 to 5 hours, and 20% said less than an hour. And the margins are 5 to 8 hours and 10 hours plus. So, I mean, I think, like you were saying earlier, I think people want not just fun builds, but also accessible builds or easy to get builds, rather than devoting, I don't know, dozens of hours a week to raiding or finding a raid. I mean, that in itself is daunting as a social experience, right? So
that was always really important to me, and it still is. Where if I'm going to post a build, I'm going to make sure, for the most part, it's accessible to as many people in as short amount of time as possible. Right. So I would usually focus on like overland sets and crafted sets, because that's the easiest to get, right? You can craft it yourself, or you can buy it from somebody, and you can make that build in like an hour, right? If you have the gold or you have the crafting skill, you could make that build in an hour and start playing. So that was really important to me. So most of my builds starting out doesn't require trials gear at all, but it's still a fun build and it's powerful in some aspects. So I think, in a poll like that, you'll see that's the majority of players. Like they don't have a ton of time to farm gear and, get best in slot traits and whatever. They just want to play with the time that they have, which is limited.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes I get people asking me, they're brand new players. I just installed ESOU this week. What should I play? And my usual response to them is just try everything. But if you want to, look into getting into endgame raiding, probably play a necro, because you're always going to be needed. So how?
I mean, Arcanist is coming out, so.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
We'll see what happens.
My advice might change next year, but how do you approach people that are brand new and they want like you to decide for them what they should play? How do you deal with that?
It's hard. I mean, I try not to stress about it, and I try to not get people to stress about it because I know that's hard to. That's like the hardest decision, right? But so I just say like look at some videos and try to find what's most appealing to you, like visually especially, and in terms of the skills and like the play style, right? So if you like pets, then you're gonna probably be a sorcerer or a necro. If you like fire magic, you're gonna gravitate to Dragon Knight or something like that. So just looking for kind of those overarching themes in the class, because I know there's DPS differences at end game, but like I preach usually for the majority of players, the differences don't matter, and it comes down to playing something that you like and that you connect with. Don't look to chase the meta before you even start playing. Like that's not fun to me.
Exactly.
That's the exact same advice I give to new players trying to grind right away or trying to level every points. I'm just like, bro, just
not fun. Yeah,
it's not even that. Like maybe they do enjoy it, but at the same time, I've seen so many people over the years. They start out like that and they just burn out. Like they don't even. I knew this one guy, he grinded the max CP, which was at the time, what was it, 600, was it 810 CP or 500? I don't know, somewhere between those two benchmarks when after vet ranks. And he got there, he farmed gear, and he didn't know how to improve gear. And I'm just like, you should probably check out other aspects of the game, and he like I was shocked because this guy didn't know how to improve gear. He grinded, got the sets, didn't know how to improve gear. And I look at that and I'm like, you should probably not power level right away in the MMO and just kind of enjoy the world, just quest. And
questing, exactly. This is another thing I say to people: go and enjoy the overland and do the quests whilst it's still challenging and you don't know how to play. Because once you can,
before you can steamroll.
Yeah, exactly. That's the prime time to do it.
That's good advice. Yeah.
But sometimes, like going back to your question, I just want to like put my hands on their shoulders and just shake them. Just Google it.
Don't care about the things that you think you should care about, because it's a game at the end of the day.
I think most people want to be validated when they ask certain questions, like. Do you think this class is good because they probably picked that class, or like exactly, you know what I mean? So I'm just always like, you know what, just I don't know, keep playing or just Google something or YouTube it. It's all there. Compared to 2015 or 2016, there were no when there were no guides or builds. It's just so many things now, so many resources.
Yeah, I think that's true, that they want to be validated in their choice, because it is a big choice.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? I mean, there's no class change token, so you can. And some players will only play one character, right?
Right.
Which is interesting to me. Like, I think there's a lot of, and I don't have specific numbers, but probably a lot of players who will only have that one character.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've raided with loads of people like that as well.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because to me, I have my characters slots maxed always. But there are some people who are totally the opposite. No, I'm not changing my character. Oh, there's a new class? I don't care. I'm not changing my character.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, I think that kind of goes back to that poll, right? That brought in 2 to 5 hours a day, maybe.
Probably.
That's not a lot of time. 2 hours. I can't imagine. You know what I mean?
Right, which is interesting. Like, are class-based MMOs, is that like going away? Like New Worlds, for example, not a class-based MMO. But then Ashes of Creation, back to class-based MMOs. So I feel like it's a little bit more old school approach, having class-based. And ESO is kind of like in the middle, because it is class-based, but your class doesn't really matter. So why, like, ESO doesn't have to be class-based, because every class can do everything for the most part. So it's kind of confusing in a sense.
It's super interesting. I don't know. I feel like we're always like in the middle of an experiment with ESO.
Yeah, you get that feeling.
I mean, especially when it comes to certain skills like Misform, which I'm okay with. I think that skill has always kind of been an experiment. I don't know. you know the
But
misform.
how long do you need to experiment on the skill? Misform has been around. Why are we still experimenting on skills 4 or 5 years later?
That's I think that's a very good question. I think
Okay, misform that hurt my feelings a little bit.
Really?
When they changed the original, because one of my most popular builds is the unkillable vampire necro, right? Where you can just sit in blood mist, drop a couple extra dots. That's like one of the first 1-bar builds. And it was super fun. I mean, it wasn't hurting anything. Like the DPS was like 15k DPS, but it was super fun for like overland and even for soloing normal dungeons and stuff. So yeah, that's one of my gripes. Like, at what point with an established skill do you change it that drastically? Right. And even why did they change it? Right. Was it just for one trial encounter? Like, that's a questionable reasoning. Why wouldn't you change the encounter versus change the entire skill?
Right. We all had the same question. We were like, how did you not see this coming? Especially when we did give them a heads up of the PTS. What was it? 6 months before they did the change, right? So it's like, well, I don't know what's going on over there. So I don't know. It's a very good question. I don't know if any of us has the answer here.
So it was like misform was the only way to like tank that specific boss, right?
Yes. Well, it wasn't, but like
the best way.
It was the most consistent way, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
Like
it was a lot easier than the alternative for the same result.
You were not going to know that consistently. There's no way you could have done it. And yeah, we gave the feedback on PTS. We're in the council of raiders where we talk with a dev, and we gave them logs. We all of it, and videos. It's like videos. Yeah, we were like, what's going on with this misform thing? This isn't fun to tank.
Right.
Because at the time I was tanking it too, and I'm like, this is horrible. I would rather die.
So did they change? But did they change that encounter at all based on that feedback? No,
they did not.
No, they didn't reduce the dot or anything. They just took away the crutch that was misformed.
Like I see your valuable feedback. Thank you. Let's ignore that and let's just change the skill.
I don't know. I don't know what happens. And I think that's really, especially since update 35, a lot of people's kind of like question like what's going on, really. And it feels like I don't know if you saw the recent forum post by Kevin communicating from the dev team, right? He's passing on words from the dev team, where they were like, it's intended where sorcerer is not supposed to be unique. And I was like,
oh, yeah. What? Well, that's news, right?
This is like, yeah.
I didn't see that in the class description. When I was picking my class, like a little asterisk at the bottom. This class is not intended.
I think their statements open up a lot more questions than it does answers, because it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so they say there is class identity, but then they intend there to not be class identity, and then they say, oh, everything's supposed to be viable, or everything is supposed to be good at every role, or to a certain point, but then it's like, well, Sorks can't be good at everything, so they're not unique. And I'm just like, wait, what is going on? What is the contradictions here? There's so many questions now, and
it's weird.
It's really weird. I don't know what's going on. But I think this time around, it's because they're 110% focused on that new class, Arcanist. They're still developing it.
That's a good point.
According to interviews, I think they're just like, they don't care, or not care, but they don't have the time or resources or people to devote to the other classes, and that's why we haven't seen too many changes this PTS or really anything yet.
Yeah, well, that's my other point, is like the classes in ESO, being able to do so much, similar to the other classes. It's like, how do you have a class identity when you're also saying at the same time every class can tank, every class can heal, every class can DPS? I mean, it's very different from other MMOs where I've played, where specific classes are tank classes, and specific classes are healers, and specific classes are melee DPS or range DPS.
Yeah, I
don't
feel
know
like
if
they're trying to chase something that is it's conflicting with itself, because
yeah, exactly.
they want everyone to be able to do everything, but also retain class identity,
Some identity,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. But it's kind of difficult, because if you want everyone to be able to do everything, then that is going to get sort of homogenized, and everything's going to sort of end up being quite similar.
And they have the unique class buffs, right? But some of those with hybridization, like minor sorcery for Templar and minor
Sorks
brutality
and Templars
for
have dropped
DK.
that.
Like you only need one of those now, right? Because the game looks at your highest weapon or spell damage. So I think if maybe they address those next patch. I mean, they should address that soon. They should have addressed that this patch. Honestly, those specific class passives that are unique, and make them a little bit more defined, where you do truly need every class.
Yeah. Because I mean, the meta for trial teams at the moment is 2 Necros, 1 Nightblade, and then everyone else is DKs. And I don't think that's really what they want.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. And even synergies too, right? They could build, I don't know what, maybe it was your video, Nephis, or Skinny Cheeks or somebody I was watching that suggested more unique synergies, right? Something to differentiate the class a little bit more at endgame, where you would have a better raid composition.
Yeah.
With more diversity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that the dominance of Alkosh, that was when that was more popular. Then we did see a bit more class diversity, because you need, your Templar with your Ritual, your Sork with your Liquid Lightning, Warden with your all that kind of thing. So I mean, maybe if they bring out another synergy set, possibly with the next trial, I don't know. I remember we had Lorestus as well. That was,
oh my god, please
again,
no.
that was very popular. that brought back needing a lot of synergies and a bit of class diversity.
Not really. What are you talking about? Everyone was Necro.
Actually, no, yeah, that's not true. Yeah, everyone was Necro, wasn't it? Okay, maybe they with a shorter cooldown, so that you'd have to use 5 different synergies to keep up your buff rather than 2.
But so on top of all this, class balance, gameplay balance, and all that, what's your opinion on, I guess, when we're talking about beginners or newer players, on how ESO does in terms of retaining those players, or teaching those players? Because I know you have a I believe it's a Zero to Hero guide, right? Where it kind of streamlines the process of figuring out the different elements of the game. Do you think ESO does a good job with it, or do you think it's getting better?
I don't. Maybe it's improved a little bit, but I think I don't think it's very good. The way they onboard new players as far as teaching them the game. And it's difficult. I mean, there's so many things that are in this game now that you need to learn to be proficient. Like I said, I kind of taught myself back in the beginning, but it wasn't from playing the game. It was from watching Gil and his YouTube channel, nonstop for a month. So I think there's definitely a lack of teaching, and maybe that's a good thing for me, because that means I can make more videos, and and for you can have ESOU and all the other stuff. Maybe ZeniMax is just kind of giving it up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, we have this amazing community. They're always saying how great the community is. Maybe they lean on that more, because it is honestly an insane amount of knowledge to be proficient in this game. And could you teach that in a game without it being too much, just taking over? UI and tooltips everywhere and pop-ups everywhere. I think ESO does an okay job at just giving players the basics. because they do have little pop-ups and things that happen, like stealing is bad, and
Right.
this kind of stuff when you're first interacting on a new character.
Yeah.
So just giving them that like baseline knowledge. But it's funny, I'm leveling up this new character, right? And when you level up, you get like the it's like a tip or something that pops up every time you level up. I don't know if you guys have leveled up a character recently, but there's like you get like a new item, like a drop or something, and a tip, right?
Yeah, milestones.
And so my character hit level 43, and the tip was like, "Oh, did you know you can weave in a light attack between skills for more damage?" Level 43, this knowledge becomes available through the base game. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
They should teach you that before you even create your character.
Well, they teach you that in the tutorial, kind of. Like
they don't teach light attack weaving in the tutorial though.
They just kind of give you like what the basic.
They do basic light attacks. Yeah, basic light attacks. Interrupting, heavy attack, and break free. They don't teach weaving abilities. They don't even teach you how to use abilities, really, because at that point, well, I don't think you have abilities in the tutorial, right? You just have. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you have skills in the tutorial or not.
I think once you slot a weapon, or like you pick up a weapon from one of those tables, I think.
No, because you don't have skill points, right?
Is it after you pick up that one little sky shard you get a skill point, or because you're level? Are you level 1 or 3 in the tutorial?
I think you're level 1, so you might have like one skill available, right? But the point is, there's definitely. They could do more, but what I'm saying is I don't think they should go like 100% into it, because that would probably be too much. It'd be overwhelming.
Yeah, there was this huge outcry from a lot of players. I keep bringing this fucking patch up because it's cursed. Update 35. Because one of the reasons given for Update 35's changes was because things are too complicated or whatever. What was the reason, Ollie? Like things were out of reach for a lot of players. No. One of the reasons cited was like
make it more accessible
or like easier for players to understand, and everybody was like, well, make a better combat tutorial or whatever, in game. And I don't know if you watched the ESOU live stream after the outcry where they did address that, and they I think it was with the combat team devs on, like it was Gina, Gilliam, and Brian Wheeler, and they basically said, we leave it up to the community. Like the content creators. And it's like, you remember that, right? Yeah, it's like, well, okay,
good for me. Good for.
Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah,
for my views, sure,
yeah, sure, whatever. But at the same time, when I look at other MMOs I've tried out, like Final Fantasy 14, you can fail tutorials. So there's, for example, if you're like a DPS role in Final Fantasy 14, you have to do these tasks specifically, like damage them specifically, or like I don't know how to describe it, like, or the instance resets, and then you have to do it over again until you get it right. Yeah. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. Yeah, ESO could do that for sure.
Like,
and throw that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was Necrom, aren't we getting some kind of endless arena? Or
that would be...
No, that's quarter 4.
Yeah, quarter 4.
Quarter 4, okay. But I wonder whether that might be something like that kind of sort of steady, slow approach to, gradually teaching people to get a little bit better.
It sounded more like an end game activity, like something for end game players to do. Right, but we'll see. I mean, it could be anything at this point.
They said with a friend, 2-person arena, as so many people have been requesting, right?
With a buddy, which means you could use a companion, because companions are your buddy.
True.
That's what Rich always says. They're your battle buddy. So, which honestly, I think they need to do it that way, because otherwise, solo players will not be engaged.
Right.
Yeah. So if they set it up this way correctly, a solo player can do this content too, and you need to purchase a chapter that has companions. So more, right? So they'll
right.
probably do it that way. Hopefully, if they don't, it would be a really dumb mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they'll do that. Yeah. Damn, I didn't think about that.
I wonder if it's going to replace Black Rose Prison for XP grinding.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm quite interested by.
Yes.
Oh god.
That'll be interesting if they lower the experience, because you can do it endlessly, or if they leave it, or if they boost it.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's going to be an arena, every mob's going to be worth whatever they are in like the other arenas. I would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 80k per mob, whatever it is.
Yeah, I just wonder what it's going to look like. Is it going to be more like a Vatishran style, exploration arena, or is it going to be like VMA, like you're in the arena? Like personally, I prefer VMA. I think it's more fun.
Oh, like waves in one
like
arena.
Waves, yeah, like waves, exactly. And I'm like, there's too much running in this game. Like, can we?
Right. Yeah.
Can we reduce the amount of running necessary?
Maybe it's like 5 waves a room, and then you go into the next room, and it's just a constant loop of rooms with 5 waves of it.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets exponentially harder too. That'd be interesting.
Well, maybe they took that from, I don't know if you guys have played Blades, the mobile game. There's something very similar in Elder Scrolls Blades.
Yeah.
There's like an endless.
Yeah.
It's like floors, so you go like I forget if it's downstairs or upstairs, but you just there's like
down is more,
yeah. There's a couple enemies per floor, and then you go to the next one, and the next one it gets progressively harder. You get better loot, the further you go. So it's cool. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, Lost Strike has something similar. It's a tower where you just keep going up, and each floor gets harder.
Yeah, I think somebody said Final Fantasy has something similar also.
Yeah, I can see that happening for ESO, honestly.
Yeah. What I reckon will happen is it's going to like not get any more difficult after about, I don't know, level 20 or something, and it's just going to be a little bit too easy still. And then it's just going to be forever repeating the same like 5 different rounds. That's not really tricky. I hope they do it properly.
Hopefully it's not like based on like the rewards is going to be the key with that. Like hopefully it's not like rare drops, but it's based on like your proficiency, right? So if the rounds are harder and you can complete the more challenging rounds, you get better rewards. Not that you have to like grind it for 20 hours because there's a 0.001% chance of getting this drop to happen.
Yeah. And I hope it does get like properly harder, like impossibly hard eventually. I don't want it to sort of plateau at a certain point. You do sometimes experience that. But we'll see. It's exciting.
Alongside the outcry for a combat tutorial, there was also more rising demand for, or there is still rising demand for like harder overland content. Do you have any thoughts on that, Hack?
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the Q4 announcement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I have to do a video on this still. But so the one thing that Matt said last year, at the end of last year, was that they want to do all this stuff, right? But one of their goals was to revitalize older zones. Right? You guys remember that in his letter?
Yes.
And so there was like 2 perfect ways of doing that: spellcrafting and overland difficulty.
Right.
We know we're not getting spellcrafting. It doesn't seem like we're getting overland difficulty either, because it's not the Q4 system. So my question is, where did that go? Right? Where did the revitalizing older zones goal for this year? What happened to that? Because this endless dungeon, that's just going to be one zone, it seems like, right? Whereas if you did like some cool overland revitalization plan where you had like hard mode overland zones with, specialized bosses with new move sets, and you got like different loot or, perfected overland sets or something like that, that would give players a reason to go back to all those base game zones. So I don't know. Hopefully, it's a super popular idea, right? That's like one of the most popular threads on the ESO forum.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really thinking they would do that this year when they said there was going to be a new feature in Q4.
I was talking to some relatively newer players a few weeks ago, and maybe they had maybe a week or two of game time, and even they were like, the questing or the overland is a bit too easy. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And no disrespect to like video game journalists, but even when even video game journalists are asking if the content should be harder, when it's gonna be harder, it's just like maybe it's a bit too easy, And there's still some like pushback though from some players, like, oh, don't make it like a vet trial or vet dungeon. And I don't think anyone wants to make it a vet dungeon or vet trial. I think people just want to be immersed.
But also just making it an option, right? So it wouldn't be like just like we have normal and veteran dungeons. They have a difficulty system in place. It's just applying that to more zones. I mean, it seems simple enough to me.
Well, how would that work though? Would like a normal instance of a zone have 6 different guilds on 6 traders, or like, what I mean? Is it like different instances, or?
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm thinking just mostly of like mobs, enemies in the zone. Like, with a veteran dungeon, the enemies have more health and they do more damage.
Right.
Just switching the enemies. Yeah, but I'm not a programmer, so maybe it is like incredibly hard to do. But it would be nice to communicate that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we hear you guys, you want this, but here's why we can't do it right now. And give us reasons why.
Some people propose like a battle spirit kind of debuff on.
Yes, exactly.
But then I'm like, I don't know about that. That's kind of weird too, because it's kind of the equivalent of saying, just take your CP out, just take off your gear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily even make it harder. It just makes it take longer.
Right. I don't know about that.
If you're 50% less strong, but you got 50% more loot, would that actually be more fun? Like, if the mobs are still just doing one light attack every 5 seconds, like, it's not.
I would love to see them do it in a way where they actually give like overland bosses a couple additional mechanics, like a slightly different move set, and not even every boss, because I know that would be a ton of work, but maybe just one boss per zone becomes this like ultimate world boss, right? Where then veteran players can team up,
right?
In zone chat or whatever, and say, hey, let's get together and do the vet boss for the zone, and everybody zones into the vet instance and does the boss. Maybe it's like a 30-minute spawn or something, like it's more rare, but it doesn't seem like it would be, just add a couple extra moves to the boss, up the health, up the damage, put in some unique loot, and
it wouldn't even need to be permanent as well. Maybe they could do it like just during anniversary events and stuff, because I found that's when the overland gets the most populated or whatever, like at the dragon one recently. No one's killed a dragon in Northern Elsewhere for 10 months, and then suddenly
right,
you get swarmed. So maybe they could do something around
they could.
that.
I mean, maybe that would be a way to meet that goal of reinvigorating the old zones.
Just doing it for like a week or two.
They have the ability to do roaming world bosses now, right? Which I would think they would do that more often. But maybe that would be something they could go back and add to the old zones to make it more interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they are right, or Matt was right in his letter. Like, there's so much content now that they might as well just focus on the old one,
Right, and I like that. Like, I would appreciate that. I think a lot of players would appreciate that, especially the players who've been here for, who've been playing for some time. Makes them feel like they're they're more wanted than it just being like a revolving door of new chapter, new players, new chapter, more new players, but the other players have left already because they're bored.
But I think they're aware of this, which is why they got rid of the year-long stories. It's meant that they've opened up the schedule to do, like, you know, actually potentially revisit things, and they're not as tied down to that strict sort of storyline. They can fix things if they want.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge commitment. What they've been doing with their, you know, quarterly releases for how many years now? Like 4 or 5 years.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, doing the quarterly DLC is kind of, I don't know. It seems like a lot to put on a dev team.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Very no time to improve content, right? Because you're always on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this helps with that. I know some players were immediately like, "Oh, it's ESO's in maintenance mode.
Yeah,
Everything's shutting down." Like, no, it's just a different approach to design. And this is what most MMOs actually do, is they focus on like one release a year. Right? Most established.
Not even a year. I think WoW was what, every...
It was yearly for a while, but now it's every like 2,
3,
3, 4. It's getting longer between
each
one.
Yeah, I think that's fun.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it worked for ESO for a while, right? Those first couple of chapters. But was that more based on like the content of the chapters? Because we went back to Skyrim for a year, and you know the pandemic happened. Like, was it really that good of an idea? Or are we, you know, finding out that maybe we need to devote more time to, you know, actual repeatable content?
Yeah. Well, with any new MMO that releases, there's usually not enough stuff to do. Like, I know people that play New World or whatever, and they finish it within a month, and then they're like, right, there's nothing to do.
That's true.
With the amount of stuff that ESO has been putting out over the last, you know, like 5 years, I think they're at a level now where there's enough to do for a new player that they do have the time now to just sort of sit back and just fix the things that the community find, you know, irritating.
Yeah, and I think we'll see in the Q3 when they, you know, they're supposed to do like updates and bug fixes and stuff. That'll be interesting. Like, will it just be a couple of skill fixes, or will this be like a major overhaul? Will the game run so much better after Q3? Will you know, all this stuff be improved and fixed, and stackable treasure maps
finally
and all this
get
stuff?
a new server? We've been promised a new PvP server.
That too, yeah.
Yes. Did they put a date on that? I can't even remember whether they put a date on that.
It got pushed back, right?
Yeah, it got pushed back.
Yeah, like April or something? Late March, April?
Maybe, yes. Well, we'll see. I'll tell you if anything changes. I log in one day and I don't crash at Ailswell. That'll be wow.
Well, so for you guys, is that when you do like PvE raids, is server performance still like an issue?
I'd say PvE is fine, but PvP in peak time is quite tricky.
Okay.
Like sort of between 8 and 10 p.m. UK time. It's very crashy and like slow motion, like skills don't work, all that kind of thing. But it's been worse in the past, so I'm not too annoyed. I'd imagine if PvP was your main thing, you might be pretty exhausted by now.
Or just, you know, you're upset because there's no PvP content additions for 3 years. It might be.
Not even
you might be a little bitter
or something. Yeah.
I know, right? Shouldn't there be more battleground maps by now?
Yeah, I feel like with companions and Tale of the Tribute deck and antiquities, that's something that should be added every major update.
One map at least. That would be so much more fun just to throw in. And even if they like took out old maps, just like update the maps. for Battlegrounds, because I mostly play Battlegrounds when they have PvP.
Right.
Just because I don't like, riding around from keep to keep and stuff. But I mean, Battlegrounds was a great addition to the game that they haven't really done a lot with since then. And I feel like they could do a lot more with that.
Yeah, I feel like they've the balancing of it, they've not really nailed down. They keep taking in and out game modes, and I don't think they have it how they want it, which I guess is what's been their main priority when they think of Battlegrounds. They're like, let's actually make sure that people are playing it and we've got the right game modes and all that kind of thing. But I feel like they'd have a higher Battleground population if they did, add more things to it every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just taking away the ability to queue for things.
Do you guys remember when it came out and they had the damage power up?
Yes,
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was like, so the first thing you did when you spawned in is you raced to get the damage power up, right?
Yeah.
Maybe bringing back power ups or like debuffs or something. See, that would be cool, I think, for a weekend event rather than just we're only going to do this map,
right?
Or we're only going to do this rule set. Like I think last weekend was like capture the relic. Another.
What do you think about the game modes? Like, are you a deathmatch enjoyer or are you like objective enjoyer?
I prefer deathmatch. I do like capture the relic. I like capture the relic once in a while because I used to, before I played MMOs, I played shooters.
Yeah.
And like capture the flag was like, that was fun, right? I would usually play defense, get all my buffs up, protect the flag. That's fun to me. The other ones, like what is it? Crazy King is interesting, but it's so long. Like I don't like how long those go. Same thing with Chaos Ball, right? Sometimes that takes forever. So maybe they just need to like reduce the time limit on some of these things.
I think the game modes are fine, but the 3-way format combined with the map itself, like the level design, is not good. Like
interesting, right?
Yeah, it's just not good in my opinion. Like having played like you said, like shooters or even like things like Halo, I mean, level design's a big thing, right?
Right.
And 3-way.
Maybe that's why they stopped making new.
Yeah,
new
maybe.
Maps.
Maybe they
just sucks to do a three-part map. Like
yeah. The 3-way format I think needs to go. I think a lot of people want maybe 2 teams.
See, and that's another thing they could test on the weekend is like 2 teams only. I think that would be way better, honestly.
I think a dev said something about how hard it is to like separate the 3 alliance thing from a 3-way PvP mode thing. I don't know how intrinsically tied they are together. Because I remember in 2014 they showcased Battlegrounds actually, but they didn't call it Battlegrounds. It was like a PvP kind of event. It's kind of like an invitational, like a tournament. And it was basically Battlegrounds, but a lot more scuffed. But it was still a 3-way, which was interesting to me. So
yeah, that would be an interesting thing to like get feedback on, right? Like how they did the email or whatever, the feedback email a few months ago.
The survey.
Yeah, the survey. Like do a PvP focused survey and see would people want to do like a 2-team setup instead of 3-team, and what modes do people actually like playing?
I don't know why they don't do more surveys. That's crazy, actually. Now that I bring it up.
I mean, people are so willing to do the surveys.
Yeah, hopefully they do more.
Yeah, I would.
But I mean, we'll see if it actually comes to fruition with the feedback that we gave. But
yeah, Ollie brought up an interesting thing earlier about Overland you mentioned something about 50% more rewards, Ollie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about rewards.
Yeah, the reward system.
All right. So, what's your thoughts on like the current reward system, or like just current rewards? Like, do you think, because the last survey also talked about rewards, right? So like, yeah.
And I'm trying to remember what feedback I gave. I definitely want to see more in-game rewards for like doing stuff in-game, right? So like complete VMA, you get a special skin or whatever, complete a trial. That's kind of basic. I mean, what about, you know, certain quests, like you do a complete quest chain for something, you should get like a new I don't know, like a effect for your character, or like even like a short duration buff, or just something more tied to like the in-game stuff that you do, and not so much focused on Crown Store this and that. Right.
Ollie, have you watched Hack's video on the customized actions?
I have not.
Okay. It was a good video. You should watch it.
On the.
It's the modified. Yeah, the animation.
Aren't they like
effects.
broken? Doesn't the like plentiful harvest not work with them or something?
I have no idea. But I really enjoyed that video because you presented it as kind of like, this is a big red flag, and I agreed. I was like, this is not good at all. Like, this is something you should earn in game, or something, anything, or even an alternative. But there's
like
nothing.
if you're a master gatherer, then you should get that animation, or you should be able to pick a new animation because you grinded that skill up to level 50 and to show off that you're that level and that you put that time into your character. But no, you can just buy it for like $10 in the Crown Store.
Are you not happy with
$7-10? You have to
your
get
die? You get a die for Master Crafter, whatever.
No, I'm not happy with the die.
Furnishings, like the little.
I don't do housing.
How dare you? Be grateful for the die.
Be grateful for the die.
What are the colors? What colors? What colors the die? Is it green?
It's going to be one of those like shiny ones that when you put it on something, it's not the color that it says it is.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rewards in this game have a lot to be desired. I think people talk about it all the time, you know, versus the Crown Store. Crown Store is an issue, like that meme, like nothing works except the Crown Store is still up. You know, like that's a meme, but in a sense, it's true.
Right. Yeah.
So I just thought it was a really odd choice. When did they? I think update 36 they started putting in those customized actions. Like, wow, it's not a great look. Looks a little desperate, like a little cash grabby. You know, when they could just as easily apply that effect to some quest chain, like I said, or some, you know, skill rank or something.
Like, I remember when we did Imperial City Prison and White Gold Tower, you get a pet for doing all the achievements.
Yeah, the Horver.
Like, we've never had anything like that again. I mean, we get the mounts for the trials, but
that's so limited.
It's so little compared to what we could have. And I mean, I understand, like, okay, maybe you make more money from just putting it in the Crown Store, but you also want people to play your game. Like, if you have something to strive towards, then more people are going to play your game. They'll spend money on other things.
I think to me, it's like the most short-term, like short-sighted vision option for monetization, right? And you know, maybe they were forced to do this by shareholders or something. Like, we need more money in the last quarter of the year. Okay, well, it's too late to make content. You know, we're giving away the Galen Zone for most people who have, you know, if you don't have ESO Plus. So let's add more to the Crown Store, right? That's the quickest way
quick
to get a little bit of extra cash. yeah, let's reskin some things, put them in a new fancy looking crate, and this will give us a little bit of extra cash. Which, I mean, I get it. Yeah, that's probably true, but it's not, I don't think it's healthy for the long term of this game. Like, they keep doing this in 2 years. How many of these, like, how big is the crown store going to be at that point?
Yeah.
You have all these customized actions and everything, versus how big could your reward system be that, you know, you can actually say is a feature of your game, which could potentially bring in new players who bring in new money. It's more of like the long-term play. So
yeah, I don't know who's over there thinking like people won't buy anything from the crown store if there's like a equal reward to something in the crown store, because the opposite's actually true. If you look at other MMOs where they do also have cash shops, and it's like, well, if the game is good, people will buy things from the cash shop anyway. So I don't know. I think it's not a good sign. I don't know, and hopefully they do respond to feedback with that survey, that reward survey, because I was surprised when they sent that survey out. It just basically told me there's no way they don't know, absolutely no way they don't know about the players' maybe expectations for rewards, or even like the fact that maybe they're putting too much stuff into the crown store. It's just ridiculous at this point, I feel like.
yeah, it's not a good look.
Well, you know, surprisingly, there's actually a good amount of players defending it. I don't know if you'd be surprised by that, actually. But yeah, there's players defending that. There's players defending the crown store. There's players defending the was essentially gambling with the loot crates. There's players defending
well, they
the
say
fact that
it doesn't impact the game, right? It's,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
cosmetic only.
It's
only. Oh yeah, you don't
cosmetic,
have
which
to
is
buy
good.
it. You don't have to do. You don't have to buy this. You know, it's like, okay, but would you want this in game? Because it's very clear that dev focused, and when I say dev, I mean like art and stuff like that. When you put it into the cash shop, where is that focus going in the game? Nowhere, because it's all going to cash shop for like all these reward or cosmetics and stuff. So it does affect the game, just in more subtle ways.
Yeah, I would say it's a subtle thing, and it's over time it's not going to be so subtle.
Oh yeah,
right.
100%.
ESO is going to have the biggest cash shop of any, MMO within a couple years, and is that the look that they want?
For sure. Oh, actually, I've always wanted to ask you this, Kak. What's your favorite class?
Oh yeah.
I'd say it depends. Like I just kind of cycle through all of them. Yeah.
Like on the mood, or like what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you had to
probably
pick one,
all.
though.
If I had to pick one, it would probably be either Nightblade or Templar. Nightblade was my first class, so I did play that quite a bit. And then Templar is just like easy mode class, right? Specifically like puncturing sweep on a Magicka based Templar is always fun to just like, that's my grinding build, right? So when I want to just kick back and grind some CP or something, I'll get on Magicka Templar and do sweeps all day. So those are probably my top two, but I just rotate. Sometimes I'm just in the mood for something else and I'll play a sorcerer or Warden or Necro. DK is always fun. And then, we'll see how the new class turns out.
What are your thoughts on the Templar sweeps animation change?
I mean, that's
like
one of those things. Not really. I mean, I think now I'm kind of used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like it?
I don't know about the animation, but I like the feel of it more. Like the 0.8 second channel time, which is basically the standard now for channeled skills, feels a lot better.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, it feels good, but I don't know about the animation.
But when
the visual.
But when your spear goes like 90 degrees of your body during during the animation, and it looks like, I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about the visual and the sound of it, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess.
Wait, did they change the sound too?
No, that's the problem.
No,
right?
they didn't.
Because like
Oh, they didn't change the sound, so the sound doesn't really match up with the
No,
exactly.
quite,
visual.
Yeah.
And didn't they reskin like one of the actual like staves from the game?
It was
really?
Bogdan the Night Flame staff style, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, see, it should have been
Spear.
it should have been like an actual spear of light, like it was. And if they just needed to change it to match up better, then keep the animation, but just maybe they lost the file from that or something. The animation files. Crap. We don't know where that file is anymore. Let's just get a weapon and reskin it. See, that's the thing. Like that was like pretty set in stone since the beginning of the game. You know, why change it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I'm kind of used to it now, but yeah.
What about Rapid Strikes? That one I really don't like.
That just looks goofy.
What?
Really
goofy.
Am I the only one that likes it? Really?
Yes.
It's just like your arms like waving in the air, isn't it?
Well, but the old one was like you trying to get at somebody, but they're holding you back by putting their hand on your head. You know what I mean? It's like that was also goofy.
The old one wasn't good either necessarily. It didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't make any sense. It was that's a classic ESO animation.
How do you stab somebody with the hammers, bro? You know, with the blood. I think this one's better, honestly. Like for sure, I think it's better.
It makes more sense, but I don't think it's better.
It makes more sense, yeah, but it doesn't look great.
I must be the only one then. Damn.
It's just weird. It's just janky. Like they just took the light attack animation, right, and just like did it quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's little decisions like that seem weird to me. Like just change two skills.
Do you think Arcanist will bring something like really new and unique, or how do you think it will fit into the into the system?
I mean, if we look at past class introductions, I would say it's probably going to be pretty broken.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Right? I mean, that's what I would expect, just based on past ZeniMax behavior. And then they'll tone it down over the next couple patches. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'd imagine some type of group buff or debuff, right? For trials and group content. They have the combo system, Crux, right? Which they've talked about, which is kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Necromancers, you know, having corpse management as like a side skill, which, or like a specific interaction of the class. I think it's going to be similar to that, where some players will take advantage and some they won't even care. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, they showed one more skill. What was it, like last week? It's like a beam skill, but it's like targeted, or it seems like you can move it. It's like directional. And so you could get multiple targets in it, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so hopefully we get, maybe they'll let us test it pre-PTS. That would be cool. Give them some feedback.
I think they're going to let us test it maybe at that ESO Tavern meetup in NA, maybe. Are you going to go? That spring meetup?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, depending on the dates and where it is, that would be awesome.
Yeah, they still haven't released any details for that. I know they're going to do one in Germany in July, but they haven't said anything for NA. But,
they pay for my ticket. I'll be there.
Speaking of the Arcanist, so someone actually told me yesterday. They read an interview article where I don't know if it was Rich or maybe a different dev that revealed another skill for the Arcanist. It's like a shield AoE that you can like put down on the ground, and it explodes and soft taunts everything in the area.
Oh, whoa, okay.
And I'm just like, wait, soft taunt? Isn't that basically a hard taunt?
Isn't
next
that
patch?
basically a taunt? Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't that basically an AoE taunt?
Yeah, it's basically the AoE taunt.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Unless they also like give that to other classes as well. I could see that maybe being an issue.
Oh yeah.
It's hard. I mean, there's a fine line, right? Like you really want to sell this. You want to make it interesting enough for players to come back to, but you don't want players to also be annoyed that are like those one character people, right? Like, oh, the Arcanist gets all the new stuff. I mean, you can't really win if you're ZeniMax in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's gonna happen is it's gonna be pretty freaking OP. Maybe they'll have a new debuff to like Necromancers have major vulnerability.
Yeah.
Maybe Arcanist will have major brittle somehow. I don't know if that's gonna work. Major toughness maybe? Who knows? 20% more max health?
Oh dang.
I don't know.
Or
the worst case scenario is like they shift other class passives to Arcanist.
Oh, that's the worst. I hate when they do that.
I know. If you remember Warden when they came out, it was dog shit, right?
Yeah,
and then
no one played
a few patches or a couple patches after that, they were like, "All right, let's move minor toughness from Warhorn to Warden, and Templar's major mending to Warden," and then they just kept kind of going on.
And eventually they got rid of minor berserk from Nightblade, and Warden had it.
Right, exactly.
And they got rid of major fracture from Nightblade, and Warden got it on shocks.
Man.
Wow. Yeah, that was a rough time. They were just like taking stuff away from classes and adding it to Warden. Yeah, don't do that. It's not good.
Oh, I guess we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, do you guys think that was a good move to release the new class this year?
You know, I'm going to tell you that I was not expecting it based on what they've been saying about how the game doesn't have much room for...
That was interesting.
Exactly.
That was interesting, right?
They don't have room for new animations. They don't have room for new...
Which I always was like, really? Because NPCs get new animations every DLC. Like, there's always a new boss, right? A new dungeon DLC has new bosses with new mechanics, new animations, new like graphical effects, right? So they're always adding little things here and there. So I was always kind of skeptical of that. I mean, clearly the last gen consoles have, limitations.
Right.
So I was a little surprised that they went with the new class for that reason. To me, it made more sense to do something like, overland difficulty or like spellcrafting, right? Because spellcrafting, you could literally recycle any animation and make it interesting that way and have no new animations required. But yeah, somehow they went for it, and it's going to work, I guess, on last gen consoles. So yeah, it was a little surprising to me too. But I think, Matt was correct. Like, that's the most requested feature, right? Like, at least when I pull my audience, 60%, like 50, 60%, what new feature do you want to see? Right? We always do that at the end of the year because there's like no other content to talk about. What feature do you want to see next year?
What about is ESO worth playing in 2025? How about that one?
Just make that video.
That would be funny. Do that video, but do it like 2 years. Is it worth playing in 2028? And people will be like, "What?" Make all these crazy predictions.
Oh man. But I think a lot of us were expecting spellcrafting, just because they kept saying, "Oh, we can't add more furnishings to the houses."
Well, the Hermaeus Mora revealing Hermaeus Mora was what said it. Like, right. I was like, "Oh, that's it, dude! Yeah. Spellcrafting. It makes they're gonna use the black books and they'll become spells, and like it made so much sense." Which I think they could have done it that way. I think they could have easily put in spellcrafting. with like the lore and how that would work. It'd be really cool. But yeah, the class seems cool. It is interesting that it's so focused on like a Daedric prince, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting how they did that.
Some Warden like focused on something.
Aren't Templars based on Meridia?
Yeah, this.
That's true. Okay.
I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how like when you look at the original classes and like where the themes come from.
I think DKs are based on Akaviri martial arts or whatever.
Yeah, that style of combat or whatever, which is cool. I mean, that's awesome for a class.
But what were
too much green though so far from what I've seen with the Arcanist.
Oh, Arcanist! Oh,
doesn't it look like a little bit too much? Like, okay, I get it. I get it. They like green.
At least it's not blinding like Templar. Remember when they had to like nerf the brightness of the skin?
Yes, I remember. The ritual itself was so bright; it would light up an entire like town, literally.
Yeah. Maybe they'll nerf the greenness in like 8 patches time.
Can you imagine like 15 Arcanists in the same area and it's just like green? Pew pew pew, just like green. Runes everywhere and runes on the ground. It's going to be kind of gross for a little while.
Yeah. Maybe some of the skills will be black as well. I mean, the tentacles are black, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
That giant tentacle arm. That's interesting.
Yeah, I wonder.
Reminds me of Resident Evil.
Yeah, Nemesis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was super shocked. I think they're going to do class next year with maybe an announcement saying they're going to drop the old console.
Consoles, yeah.
Because they've been constantly saying, because of the old console we can't add purging slots, we can't add new models, they don't have memory in the game or whatever. And I actually dug into this, how they did this class, because I was so confused. Like, were they lying the entire time, or you know what I mean? I dug into it and I found an interview where Rich basically said it took their engineers 1 year to save enough memory, like to find enough memory, a budget for the memory for a new class. And that was back in I guess the timeline is so we had Finn, he's the lead encounter designer on the podcast, and he told us they planned things 2 years in advance, which means the engineers had from 2020 until 2021 to find enough memory for a new class, and then they started developing the Arcanist sometime in 2021.
Yeah, so they've been working on this for some time. It's not like a pivot. It's kind of interesting. Like when I look at that, the new cadence for content this year, that seems like a pivot in their strategy, right?
Yeah.
Where they looked at sort of the numbers and how things were declining. And maybe they started thinking about it the year previous. We don't know. But it seems like, especially that Q4 and Q3, that they kind of got the point, like, players don't need the content at this point. They want us to focus on fixing bugs.
Right.
And adding repeatable content. Because the Q4 feature isn't ready yet. Right? They said...
I mean, the class isn't ready yet.
Yeah, so they're still working on this stuff.
Yeah. I think it was a mix of planning and then reaction, for sure. I think it was more like maybe 70% pivot and 30% plan. I mean, when they said Q4s haven't done yet, we don't know what's coming yet, and then I don't know. It's like, okay. Which I think is good. I think if they are reacting to the player base, that's better than them doing the same thing again. That would have absolutely, I think, kill a lot of interest this year.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've been critical in the past of like how it's difficult to get them to change something once they've said that they're going to do it. Like how the PTS feedback we feel sometimes gets ignored and stuff. So the fact that it seems like they might be a little bit more open to being a bit more flexible, depending on what the community wants.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'd love to see more communication, like the survey, right? But even more so, even more in depth, where maybe they take groups Like they had the class reps at one point, right?
Yeah.
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 But something
who were
better,
those guys?
right?
Something better.
Do you think, Nefis, do you think that's a good idea to have some type of like, I don't know, like representative team of players that's in more of a direct communication with the developers, if assuming the developers would actually listen and take that feedback, right?
So, having been
Kind of
in
got
the
some things.
having been in that program myself, I mean, I still can't fucking reveal. I think the ND is still effective, but
Mm.
I don't. I don't know. Like, it's hard. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that players don't know about or like don't take into account. Maybe I don't know if it's like productive though. Like as a whole, overall, like, I don't know if it was 10 people, right? I don't know how you can cram entire demographics into 10 people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It might need to be more than 10, but at the same time, if you do more than
Yeah.
10, well, I don't. It's a hard
If
one,
they have somebody to manage that, yeah.
right? And it's like,
Which
well,
maybe that's why they're going more towards surveys. Maybe maybe survey is the new class reps, where they can send it to a wider audience and get a bigger data set.
yeah. I think they're gonna. I hopefully they do surveys, but I think they're also pivoting based on that stream team meeting that we had. Maybe more specifically the content creators. So I think one of the issues with the classroom program was only 2 of us were content creators. That might sound like really elitist or like bad, but it makes sense because like only Outcast and I were making content, so we kind of knew or had a feeling of what players wanted or what they wanted to see. Whereas the other 8, they were more in touch with their own kind of circles and communities, which is good too, right? Because there's different communities and different groups. But at the same time, if you are a business or a game company, you probably want a much bigger pool. And I think them asking content creators or streamers what the general feeling is in the community, or like what the kind of finger on the pulse thing, I think is a bit better in some ways. I don't know if it's a good thing though overall. If I don't know, I think they should have multiple channels rather than just one single group or one single channel.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah, I think like update 35, for example, was a big red flag as far as communication.
Yeah.
Like what the communication issues are between the devs and the players. And that just blew up in their face, right? I think that to me clearly showed that they didn't know how to communicate with their players. And to me, it would have been much better to like front load communication before they even do a major update like that. Like saying, okay, and it could be through a survey or it could be a forum post or whatever, saying, okay, here's the issues that we're looking to fix in the second half of the year. DPS is too high, or there's too much of a percentage of damage that comes from light attacks. Here's what we're thinking of doing to fix this issue, right? We're thinking of doing whatever to light attacks. What's your feedback on this? Is there something we could do differently? But instead, they created this whole like massive update that nobody asked for, right? In regard to like light attacks and the damage scaling and everything.
A lot of things.
And they ended up rolling back like most of those changes during the PTS cycle based on our feedback, right? Which is a complete waste of a PTS cycle,
right?
Because they were making changes up to like week 4, week 5. Right? It's a complete waste of dev time because the time that they spent before PTS to create that update had to be revised, so much. Whereas if they just communicated, this is the issue, this is what we're thinking about doing to fix it, what do you think? Like, what's your feedback? And then create the update, based on feedback.
That's essentially what the class reps did. But I just
maybe they
think,
need to like open it up, right, on a
right,
broader
exactly. I
scale.
think they need to open that up.
That
a bit
open
more.
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, something. I don't know.
I think with update 35, they had an idea of how best to do the solution already, and they were so confident in that idea. That's why they created it and put it out there before asking people what they thought. And like, like Rich say, like, try it and give it some time before you make judgments, which is very confident, I feel. But
oh yeah, he was a little overconfident, probably.
I think that was more. I don't know. I think that was just bad timing.
Well, maybe. But
It's just bad timing.
like, I don't think anyone should ever be that confident, really, because it's very risky. Like you say, it's a whole waste of your time. You put something out there that
with such big updates, right? It would make more sense to kind of front load it and bring it to the community first, instead of basically shadow dropping it, right? They shadow drop that on the community, and we're like, nope, this is not it.
Is it a communication problem though, or is it more of like I don't know. Like when you read patch notes, right? And you read some changes, it's like even on paper you know what's going to happen. Does that make sense? You don't have to really go to PTS to test it.
Yes.
So why, you know what I mean? Why were those changes there in the first place? Right? That's my question.
Right. Cool, because they were trying to solve an issue, right? Which was, I mean, I'm not totally clear on what the issue was, but I think it was too much DPS coming from light attacks, which in their mind was a big issue that needed to be solved.
I think they wanted to close the gap between like the top end players and
they want to close the gap, but they also nerfed healing. They nerfed sticky dots, right? Whatever. Now it's once every 2 seconds. So they kept that. I don't know. It was a wild patch.
And too much at once, I think. Too, right?
For sure.
Too many changes at once. You can't test the impact of a specific change because there's like 5 different major changes all happening at once. So, I mean, it seems like they've pulled back a lot, at least with update, 36 and 37. So we'll see how long that lasts for. I mean,
hopefully
learned
all,
their lesson.
yeah, exactly. I was going to say, hopefully all these things mean it's going to be better in the future, and seeing that having some communication is going to be helpful to them, and they shouldn't be afraid of it.
Yeah, but I think ESO has a good future still. I've invested tons of time, not just playing the game, but also creating, a YouTube channel and a website and Discord. I know you guys you're with that too, so we're more invested in the game than most people,
right?
And a lot of people get pretty negative, when updates come out, like, oh, this is the end, where it's maintenance mode and
canceling my ESO Plus.
Yeah, canceling my subscription, guys. Just so you know, it's canceled. Like, okay, thanks for letting me know. But the main hurdle I see, like we talked about, kind of, is the last gen consoles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, dropping that's a huge like PR nightmare, right? How do you tell a group of people like you can't play the game anymore? And maybe it's just they only get access to content pre 2024 or something, and they can't access the new content. I don't know. I don't even know how they would do that.
BDO, Black Desert Online's on console, and their console player base often don't get the PC patches when PC patches come out. So ESO is kind of better in that regard, where like the console patch so the PC update comes 2 weeks before the console patch, and for BDO I think one patch took like 6 months. So I think people still playing on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One should probably understand that like their 10-year-old console is 10 years old, and maybe they should invest in a computer or the next gen, because now I checked it out. It's PS5 and Xbox Series X, and I got both of them in the first year. Now it's much easier to get them, for sure, 100%. There's less scalping, so I don't know if anyone has an excuse at this point, really. If you want, no, I'm serious. Like, why not? If you don't have the budget to pay for $500 for Xbox Series X, or what was it, $600, $500 for a PS5, maybe look into budget PC that can still run ESO fine with a good CPU. That's it's like
they could do what they did with like Minecraft, where the console version's basically like mobile version until people get better consoles. I don't know how you'd make a mobile ESO version.
You have to take into account population. Like, I don't think the console population is nowhere near as many people as even one PC. And like, if you combined all Xbox EU, Xbox NA, PlayStation NA, PlayStation EU, I don't think it would even come close to PC NA, judging from my playtime there and what other people are saying, and also based on prices, marketplace prices for like crowns and stuff. Gold value is much higher on console. So I don't know. I don't think it would be a PR nightmare. I think it's just something people have to deal with, because in 2024, next year, it's going to be what, 11 years, 12 years for their console. So I mean, that's generous, Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I don't know. There was something I wanted to ask, and I completely forgot. God, I do this every podcast. Like, there's a question in my mind, I just completely slips my mind. God damn it. Actually, I want to ask, like, apart from like ESO content creation, what other stuff do you do in terms of, like, do you run a guild? I think some people have asked me if some content creators run guilds, and your name has popped up. If you have a guild, like, do you manage a guild, or do you just have a guild where people like?
No, I would like to. Yeah, I would like to, but I just don't think I would have time. Yeah, I would love to get like a guild on multiple platforms, because I play on PC, but I play on Xbox sometimes too, and I think it's just a time thing. Yeah, I don't actually get a lot of time to play ESO.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And if I am playing, I'm probably also working on a build or recording something for a video. So yeah, it's tough.
Do you regret it, making content?
No, not at all. I mean, it's awesome. I think I have a lot of support, a lot of great viewers and subscribers, and kind of built this unique community over time. And they support me by watching videos or doing YouTube membership, which is a huge help for me, just financially speaking.
Right.
So yeah, I love it. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, really.
Some content creators I've talked to, they like regret an aspect of it in terms of like exactly what you said, like their gameplay is now replaced by kind of like working on builds or specific gameplay for a specific video, or in video editing.
It's different. I mean, gaming hits so different. Like, once you become a content creator, I don't even remember what it's like to like play a game for fun. Like, I know that probably sounds bad. That sounds worse than it is. But it's just a different mindset. Like, when I'm playing a different game, I think of maybe this would be good content, right?
Right.
Like, you approach gaming with a different mindset. So it's just different. I'm very happy with being a content creator in this space. I think it's awesome.
Speaking of space, I've noticed. Do you stream on YouTube, or do you just not stream at all?
If I do stream, it's on YouTube. It's rare though.
Hmm.
It's pretty rare just because of time commitment. Like there's no way I could stream for more than like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I know like a lot of streamers, like they're up there like 8, 9, 10 hour streams, right? Which I know it's not required, but as far as like time commitment, I also have like a full-time job.
Oh, really?
And I do like, I'm not a full-time content creator, really. I kind of do it sort of as a hobby.
Okay.
So, you know, I have a full-time job. I have wife, kids.
Okay.
Takes up a bit of time. Yeah. So as far as like my content creation time, I get maybe 10, 15 hours a week. And if you imagine like creating 2 videos, that's going to eat up half that time.
Yeah.
Right. So if I were to stream like 6 hours, then I would be done for the rest of the week. That's all my time. Right.
Right.
So I have to think of, to me, like doing YouTube videos is much more time efficient.
Right.
For like creating content. I would love to stream. I would love to do that more, but you know, I need more time probably to do that.
What you could do potentially, as someone who also fucking struggles with time, streaming and making videos and whatever, is when if you stream, you're just doing the work that you would be doing. You know what I mean? Have you considered that?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good way to engage your community, and they can check out what you're doing, and then you can tell them that you're making the video, and they'll check out your video out, and that'll basically like double dip into your streaming and your content creation or your video making, and I think it would be efficient if you want to try that out.
That's a good point. Yeah, I definitely would. That would definitely be my approach if I were to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think some people in chat were surprised about that you had a full. I think most people assume you're a full-time content creator. That's what I assumed too. I thought you were a full-time content creator.
Put out so many.
But you're actually an adult.
Yeah, well, content creators are adults too.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well,
I don't know about.
I mean, there's different definitions, right?
Right. Yeah. But wow. Okay. So you got a full-time job. You got a family. That's a lot. That is a lot. I think. Yeah.
Why are you playing video games?
What do you mean?
Well, people with families, I don't know, they like go fishing and like do outdoor things.
No, outdoor? No, not me. I mean, I do. I like getting outdoors once in a while. I don't know. Like it's always been my hobby, right? And so there was this point where it kind of transitioned from a hobby to, well, it's still a hobby, but it's also like a side income, you know, which is really helpful when you have a family. Like, when you guys get to that point, like keep your channel, keep your any form of income you can generate is like super helpful nowadays when you have a family. So yeah, it just adds to what we're able to do.
Out of curiosity, what's your work field? Like, are you like a nuclear engineer?
That was very specific.
Well,
no, it's like IT support.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Everyone works in IT.
What do they? Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure when we asked Pathfinders what they did, I think out of 12 of us, I think 10 worked in IT. It is a vast majority, I think, of gamers play work in IT.
Yeah, I think we just kind of gravitate to jobs like that.
Yeah.
Probably.
If anyone has
content creation, it can definitely be a full-time job.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, at a certain point, when you have certain responsibilities, whether it's like a mortgage or kids, you need something a little bit, well, you need something with like insurance, first of all, right?
Yes, yeah.
YouTube doesn't get me insurance, in case people were wondering. They don't pay. they won't pay for my dental visits
Right.
or my, prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely recommend having at least a part-time job if you're a content creator. I mean, unless you've really blown up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unless you can just buy stuff outright and you don't even need loans.
Yeah, but at that point, you should be investing your money, right? Because who knows how long that's going to last for.
You should be buying gas stations and making OnlyFans.
Possibly, yeah.
In your hot tub streams.
We talked about this in a different podcast, but I respect that. I respect the grind. You do what you gotta do.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, always diversify your income.
I agree.
Yep, even as a content creator, have a website, have a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be done in a second, guys.
Okay. Sounds like you're getting busier soon.
I have the little ones have arrived.
Ones, yeah, it's fine.
Speaking of.
Let's see. So I think we kept you long enough, and it sounds like you're about to get busy. We can wrap it up with some questions from viewers actually right now.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, so let's kind of. What is your long-term goal as a content creator, Hack?
That's a good question. I think sticking with ESO for the foreseeable future. I want to definitely expand on the website, on all the builds and guides for this game, but then also, maybe adding a few other games into the mix.
Okay.
As far as content creation. So yeah, just keeping things rolling as far as the website, YouTube videos, all that stuff. Maybe adding streaming, if time allows for that.
Okay. Why do you call your builds, Hack, solo god mode? Oh, actually, this is a question that reminds me of a question I wanted to ask earlier as well. On the topic of, I guess, like content creation. Like, what do you think about the importance of thumbnails and stuff like that? Because some people have accused me, and I think just YouTubers in general,
baiting,
about like, oh, what is it, bait video or bait whatever, clickbait.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? If it's clickbait and it gets me the revenue, whatever. That's basically it.
Why don't you have boobs on all your thumbnails?
Yeah, might as well, yeah.
Yeah, you're giving them ideas. I mean, there's a fine line, I think. I mean, to some people who've played my build, it is like a god mode build,
right,
for them, and they've left me comments saying so. Like, thank you so much for this build. I'm able to finally play this game how I want.
Okay.
And for other people who are only interested in like, oh, what's the DPS parse? Where's your parse, bro? Like, I didn't make the build for it. It's not a DPS build. There's not going to be a parse for this one.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends, but yeah, you do try to kind of hype it up a little bit,
right?
Just to get people interested. But I do still try to deliver like good content regardless.
Yeah. I think
so people get into like legal hot water. Like,
no.
Disclaimer for like,
no,
this didn't actually set me on fire, or
well,
I didn't actually become a god. No one worshipped me.
The general sentiment I've seen is that like, Hack. A lot of people respect Hack because he's like, okay, well, he's making these videos, but he's not claiming it's the best videos or whatever, or like it's gonna. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, he just makes these builds, and it's like, okay, you want to use these builds, go for it. He's not claiming anything.
See you're genuine,
unlike some content creators can or have done, right? So it's like whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think most of us will show the build, at the beginning and show what it does. Like, I'll show it doing VMA or soloing a really difficult world boss. That's basically like the premise of the build. That's what I'm saying you can do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
But people will take that by extension and say, oh, you can do, this build doesn't do, certain amount of DPS in a trial.
Right.
And again, it's not a DPS build. It's not what it's for. So
ESO players can't read or listen. I've found. Anyway, right. Dear Hack, as someone not fully sunk into raiding, but informed of ESO, what is your perception of the clear rates for the new trial hard modes?
what is my perception of the clear rates?
Yeah, like I guess it's asking like
Oh,
your perception of, I guess, what rating clears or like the rates of clearing is like for trials, or trial hard
I
modes.
mean, honestly, I don't know.
You don't
I don't
know?
really do trials that much. No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm actually at a point where for like DPS builds and stuff, I've been reaching out to other content creators
Hmm.
to create that content and put it on my website for
Okay.
me. Like
Right,
I just, that's not really my thing, but also I don't really have time to do every type of build, but I still want to serve, all players.
Hmm.
So I'm reaching out to, other players who are better at that type of content.
Okay. How much time does Hack spend on the PTS versus the live server?
That's a good question. Probably about 50-50.
50-50?
Yeah, most of my builds and like theory crafting I do on PTS because it's just way easier
Yeah.
to test out versus,
Yeah.
certain sets. And then when I'm just playing for fun, it's on live server.
I figured that was the case because, like, when you're doing solo builds, especially for Overland, you don't want some rando to come over and you know what I mean, like help you with a
True.
boss or whatever, right? Yeah.
True. Sometimes you'll still get randos on PTS, which is fun.
Oh, okay.
And they'll like do a zone chat. Hi, YouTube. Okay. I don't actually record the zone chat in my video, but okay.
Okay. I'm curious about where Hack comes up with ideas for builds. He was the first one I ever watched for builds, so I'm curious.
Just, looking at sets. And sometimes, it's just random. Sometimes I'll get a YouTube comment like, oh, I wish you could really do like a bow sorcerer or something. And I'll go like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what that would look like. And so I'll look at sets. I'll pull up like ESO Hub or something and look at sets for a bit and come up with some ideas, and then I'll test them out on PTS, and something that works, I'll put it into a build.
Okay. I think this is the last question. What suggestions do you have for upcoming creators to create their own builds? Oh, wait, that's not the last question. But yeah,
Upcoming creators.
upcoming, like new
yeah.
creators. Like, what suggestions do you have or tips for their builds and stuff like that?
I would say on the content creation side, just find like a space or like a niche of build. Like for me, it was solo builds at first that you just really focus on and do like that type of build for every class and get kind of like a repertoire of builds so that people can kind of see you as that and kind of get to know you and know you for that type of content. And then just be consistent and, create videos like that as much as you can.
Okay. All right, this is a real last question. Do you think a new weapon type would be a good idea, and what weapon would it be?
I've been wanting a new weapon type for a long time. I think a lot of players have. I was hoping for something more magic based since we have, more stamina weapons. So I was hoping for like a I don't know, like a tome or something, like a spell book, but I guess that kind of is like what we're getting with the Arcanist. So I don't know. I mean, Elder Scrolls traditionally has more magicka type weapons, right? Or like types of magic, right? Like restoration magic and conjuration. I know that's kind of in like the class skills already. So I don't know. I don't know how they would add that in at this point if the devs would want to, or if their focus is going to be more on classes moving forward. It's hard to say. I would definitely want more of like a magic based weapon for the next one.
Always imagine sword and rune, one-handed rune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be freaking cool.
Three-hander, maybe.
Three-hander. What?
Well,
I'm not going to touch that one.
Natural progression.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here with us, Pac. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
People want to find more. I mean, everyone knows where to find you, but for anyone that is living under a rock and doesn't know where to find you, where are you? Where do we find your videos?
Just YouTube. Most of my stuff is on YouTube, Hack the Minotaur, or you can go to hacktheminotaur.com, which is my website.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. And there we have it. That's the end. And
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And good luck with the little ones.
Thank you. I'll need it.
Bye-bye.
See
Bye.
you soon.